All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. I'm kind of sticking with these tutorial videos for a little bit because I think they're enjoyable for me to do at least. They're kind of fun to mess with. Today we're doing the One Piece card game tutorial video. Wow. So this might not be for everyone here. You know, people who know how to play the game, this might just be boring to you. So skip it if you need to, but this will be kind of an intro to how to play the game video. I'm going to use what they have here, but I'm going to kind of talk over it, stop it in places, and give my opinions on things and kind of talk over things. So just kind of bear with me on that. I apologize if this is not a good video for you. I will be talking about the game, not just rules that you already know for the players who do know them. But for the players who don't know them, you know, you'll at least get to learn how to play the game. You know, this video can be used as an actual tutorial on how to play the game, and it can also be used as a video on what I think what I like about the game or dislike about the game. So first and foremost, at the time of me doing this video, I've already done a video on Grand Archive for a Learn to Play and a Flesh and Blood one. So I don't know when I'm going to publish all these, but just to kind of give an idea. So this is the third one on my list to do. So, and it's also, the time of me doing this is July 3rd. So people are starting to kind of mess around with fireworks a little bit early. So if you hear some popping and stuff in the background, I apologize beforehand. Okay, so let's get right into it, guys. I'm gonna speed it up to 1. I sped it up to 1.5x for the playback speed because this is, you can tell who the target audience here is. It's kind of like for kids. And yeah, it's a little bit annoying, to be honest, the way these kids talk. So I've sped it up, and I'm going to try to just go straight through this because otherwise, listen, you know, I'm going to talk where I need to talk and, like, you know, mention certain things. But I want to blast through this tutorial aspect of it as fast as possible so I can talk more freely. So, okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to turn off the lo-fi so we can get straight into this. Okay. Here we go. So I think the volume's pretty well adjusted, but mind your headset, you know, your earphones if you got those in. Here we go. Let me start from the beginning.
One Piece card game tutorial video.
Okay.
Oh, this game looks so fun.
So
I wish somebody would teach me how to play.
They've got some role play aspects that I think are just kind of annoying. I have already seen this video, so just kind of give you a heads up. We're going to go straight into the actual video itself here. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so they're talking about the 3 decks, which I do love, by the way, the fact they have 3 different decks in this game. One is just a card, the leader card, but each one of these has their own back. Yeah, you know, you understand that, like, each card has their own card backing. You've got this Seaphone mint or, you know, tealish green Dawn deck backing card or back card. You got the leader card has a red back, just like in the background of the Luffy card, and then you have the blue deck or your main deck, which has a blue background. Very cool. I love that, and I also love the leader aspect of One Piece. Right, the leaders. This is the future of TCGs, in my opinion, is having this leader. I'm going to go over. At some point, I want to make a top 5 list of my favorite top 5 all-time games, like my favorite games of all time. And one of my favorite games of all time is a card game called Legend of the Five Rings, or L5R. Legend of the Five Rings was it used provinces that kind of worked as leaders. Like, it wasn't a person, it was a stronghold, a province that you know, it kind of determined everything about your deck. So anyway, so let's keep going. I love the leader thing. I think, like, the L5R game came out like 25 years ago or something. It came out a very long time ago, and I think it was like way before its time in that regard of having the province. And now we have these leader cards, and we see those all over the place. So let's keep going, guys. I don't want this video to run too long. This I have sped it up, but this is an 11-minute video. So.
By the way, you can include up to 4 copies of
Yep,
cards
4
with
copies.
number in your deck.
4 copies of a card, only 50 cards in a deck, or up.
We need to decide who goes first with a round.
You know, you have to have at least 50 cards in your deck and 10 Dawn cards, and then your leader.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. Okay.
Nice. I get to go first.
Okay.
To start, draw 5 cards from the top of your deck.
Yep. Draw 5.
That's your hand.
Okay.
If
Yikes.
you're not happy with your hand, you can return all the cards and redraw your hand once. I drew so many Frankie cards. I'm going to redraw.
Yeah, so I don't know. If she kept his hand, it'd be turn 2 Frankie. Well, no, she's on the play. Just kidding. Never mind. But if she was on the draw, turn 2 Frankie into turn 3 Frankie, play 1,000 Sunny, into turn 4, play 2 Frankies. I don't think that'd be good. I'm just messing around. But yeah, that was a brutal hand. Let's see what she gets. Okay, so mulligans in this game is you just put the 5 back and you shuffle and you draw 5 more, but you can only mulligan 1 time. And this hand is much better. She's got some 1-cost characters, 3 costs. She's got Frankie. Okay, very good.
On your hand, take a number of cards from the top of your deck equal to the life value written on your leader card.
So there's your life.
Without looking at them, place them face down in the life area.
Let me let it zoom out. Okay, yeah. So you have 5 life as monocolored characters on average, and 4 life as dual-colored leaders on average. You can only have cards in your deck that are the same color as your leader. So the idea is monocolored leaders can only have, like, so Luffy can only have red cards in his deck. There's 6 colors, right? There's red, black, purple, blue, green, and yellow. At least at the time of me recording this, who knows what they add in the future. But I think it's just going to be 6 because they have a little color wheel, a little hexagonal, 6-sided color wheel down at the bottom left of every card. And so Luffy can only have red cards in the deck. Kaido at the top there can only have purple cards in his deck. One other thing is, with these dual color leaders, say if it's a red-black Garp, well, he can have red or black cards in his deck. Okay, so that's something to take into consideration. And the way that they try to balance this is they actually drop down the amount of life that a dual-colored leader has down to 4, which I don't think is actually necessary, but who knows, maybe it is. Excuse me, and it will always depend on the effect of the leader and stuff like that. But anyway, let's keep going with it. This is a good start to the video. It's kind of, hopefully it's, if you have any, let me say this right now. If you have any questions that I don't answer in this video or that I missed or something, please just don't be afraid to message in the comment section below. One more thing I want to mention. I love how this game's life system is like a resource. So in other words, when you have a 5-life leader, well, you can't lose until you get to 0 life cards and then they hit you, right? So you have 5 extra lives is the way that I see it. And each time you lose one of these lives, you draw that card that you lose. Like if you were to get hit right now and he can't defend it and he loses a life, that life card goes straight to his hand. He draws a card. So that's very important to understand because, that's a very important aspect to playing card games. All card games, in all card games, the more cards you have, the better, right? So card draw is always important. Well, in this game, even taking a point of life, you draw a card. I really love that about One Piece. Okay, so let's keep going.
Good to go. Why do I put cards there? Think of them as your leader's HP. If you drain all the life of your opponent's leader,
Yep.
and then succeed in attacking the leader, you will win the game.
So like we said, you want to attack the leader. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a more technical ruling, but if you attack someone who has 1 life with a special keyword called double attack, it will not win you the game. Even though oh wait, but it should do 2 damage, so they're 1 last life and then their face. Nope, you have to hit them dead on for the final point in order to win the game. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. If you've got any questions on it, just ask or Google it. We'll figure it out. But like I said, I'm pretty sure with double attack, even if they have double attack, you have to take all their life away before you can hit them for the final blow. Okay, Emma's turn.
Alright, let's get started. I'm up first, huh?
Yep.
What should I do? Let me explain how your turn works. First, there's the refresh phase.
Okay, so now they're about to go through the phases of the game.
During this phase, you set your rested cards to active. Cards are active when you're upright and
Yep.
rested when you're
Just
sideways.
tap versus
You also
untap.
need to return any Dawn cards you've given to another card.
So they haven't explained that yet, but in the game you will attach Dawn cards to your characters or your leader sometimes, not always, sometimes, to buff them, which is another thing about this game that I really love. We'll talk about in a minute. Let's keep going.
But there's nothing to do during the refresh phase on your first turn, so let's move on. Next up is the draw phase. That's when you get to draw 1 card from the top of your deck. Oh, but the player going first skips this on their first turn.
The player going first doesn't get to do much on their first turn.
That's right.
Yeah, but next up is the Dawn phase.
The Dawn phase? What's that?
The Dawn phase is when you get to increase your Dawn cards. The more Dawn cards you have, the more powerful cards you can play.
Ooh, I want to get a ton of Dawn cards.
Yep.
Don't get ahead of yourself. you will gain 2 Dawn cards each turn.
So you'll get you'll gain 2 resources every turn, right? That's the idea with this game. They've gotten around the Magic the Gathering issue of like, oh, I don't have any, you might get, I'm sure everyone here has heard of this idea of like where you get, screwed over with your mana, right? Well, in this game, that never happens ever. It's impossible. You're either on an odd curve or you're on an even curve. And if you go first, you're odd. If you go second, you're even. And there are some cards that can mess around with that, like from purple, that can add Dawn cards and whatnot. But the point is, or add or remove Dawn cards. But the point is, you're never mana screwed, quote unquote. Your resources are always coming at the same rate as your opponent. It's never unfair. But the way that it goes, though, is so the person who goes first gets 1 Dawn, and then they pass their turn when they're done. And then the person who goes second gets 2 Dawn. You see how they're on even now. And then they pass their turn when they're done. And then you get 2 Dawn for the rest of the game every turn each player does. So you see the person who goes first goes on the curve of their first turn they have 1, second turn they have 3, third turn 5, and then 7, 9, and then 10. You stop at 10. That's as high as it goes. And then the player on even goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's how the resources work in this game, which is an interesting dynamic in and of itself because you're always swapping between who has more Dawn, right? Like you get to go first, right? Oh man, he's 1 Dawn ahead of me. No, he's not, because you're going to go second and you have 2 Dawn, right? Now it's their turn. They're at 3 Dawn. Now it's your turn. You're at 4 Dawn. So the person who gets to go first does get to go first, but the person who goes second gets to 10 Dawn first, and that has its own perks. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Very interesting aspect of this game. Very, very well designed.
But the player going first only gets 1 Dawn card.
Right, they only get 1 to start. I'm sure they're going to talk about this, but you see how it says your turn plus 1,000 on the Dawn card. That's what he was talking about in the refresh phase when you remove a Dawn from your characters, your leaders for the turn, and put them back to your cost area. You can buff your cards with your actual resources, which again, it's just incredible. Just very well designed. I can't speak highly enough about it. Very well done. All right, let's keep going.
Now, on to the main phase. You can do lots of different things during the main phase, like use cards in your hand and attack.
What should I do first?
Why don't you play one of your character cards? To play a card from your hand, you will need to use Dawn cards to pay its cost.
Okay.
I want to try using my
The
chopper
cost is
card.
in the top left corner.
Take a look at the top left
Yep.
corner of your chopper card. That's your card.
And let's just look over at the Nico Robin card real quick to the right of Chopper. 3 cost, 5,000 power, 1,000 counter on the side there, and then no ability. The ability would be where Chopper's says blocker. That's where the ability would be. Characters that don't have any keywords are just called vanilla or generic creatures or characters in this game. They're called characters. Excuse me. So just to put that in perspective, the cost is in the top left, their power is in the top right, and their ability is in the dead center of the card. And then if a card has a counter, which they'll explain in a minute, it's to the left of the card. You see where they the Karu and Nico Robin have 1,000. Okay.
Its cost. To pay a card's cost, you rest the required number of Dawn cards.
Yep. So you tap your resources.
All right, go ahead and play your chopper.
Like this?
Just like that.
Yep, nice work. Just don't forget, you can't place more than 5 characters in your character area.
Okay, very relevant information there. You cannot have more than 5 characters down at a time in your character area. That doesn't count your leader, just the characters. Okay.
So now you're up to speed on how to play the character card, right?
Yep.
There's nothing more you can do this turn. So it's time to declare the end of your turn and let me get started.
Yep. End of turn, end of phase.
End of my turn.
Excellent. All right, Tom's
it's
turn.
my turn now. There's nothing for me to do during the refresh phase, so I'll move on to the draw phase and draw 1 card. Next up is the Dawn phase, which means I get to draw 2 Dawn cards. Dawn!
Dawn.
main phase.
Okay.
I will rest 2 of my Dawn cards to pay the cost and play my sheep's head. And that's the end of my turn.
Okay, that was good. That was just very straightforward turn there.
My turn. I'll set my rested cards to act.
Yep, so it's refreshed, so she'll straighten all of her cards, and she'll return any Dawn cards, but there's no Dawn cards on characters or leaders. But when I say return, I don't mean return to the Dawn deck, I mean to the cost area. All right, here we go. Excuse me.
Then I get to draw 2 Dawn cards.
That's right.
Done.
Dawn.
Next, I'll teach you how to attack. You can use your leader or character cards to attack during this main phase. Rest the leader or character you want to use to attack, and declare which card you're attacking. You can attack your opponent's leader or one of their rested characters.
So you heard what he said. You can only attack rested characters. You cannot attack characters that are active unless the card explicitly says this card can attack active characters. So Okay.
Oh, you don't have any rested characters. It's a bit risky, but I'm gonna try attacking your Kaido.
It's a bit risky. It's not risky at all, but you know.
Look at the top right corner of the 2 battling cards. That number.
I guess, okay, I guess I'll take that back. It could be risky if there's a trigger on top of the deck, right, which they haven't talked about yet. All right, let's keep going. So now we're comparing attack power, right? So a 5,000 attack power versus a 5,000. So if you want to defend something, you actually have to beat their attack. So he would have to use a counter from hand here to get to 6,000. Okay, so that's what's going on here.
Is a card's power. You will win the battle if your attacking card's power is the same or higher than the cards being attacked. Looks like my Kaido cards lost this battle.
I did it!
Excuse me.
That means I choose 1 life card from my life area and
Yep.
add it to my hand. Now my life is 4.
All right.
Hey, I'm getting the hang of this.
By the way, neither player can attack on your first turn. A character also can't attack on the turn it's played.
Yep, you cannot attack on the turn you're played unless you have a special keyword called Rush, okay? And like he said, you cannot attack on your first turn with your leaders.
Make sure to remember that.
Got it. Now, I'll pay a cost of 3 to play my Robin card. That's it for my turn.
Okay. Easy enough, right? So that's basically the gist of the entire game, by the way, but they're going to go into some of the details like with combat and stuff like that. But like I said, the main thing is to make sure that if you're trying to defend, you know, attacking is attacking. There are the entire videos on how to attack with the right numbers against, you know, certain situations and whatnot. But with defending, if you want to defend the attack, you have to beat their attack. You can't match it. So if they attack you for 7,000 and your leader's 5,000, you have to now get to 8,000. So...
Alright, my turn now.
Okay. Refreshes, draws a card. Dawn.
Let me explain how
I do have to mention real quick. I have this like pet peeve. I mean, I mess up too sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Notice you draw first and then you do your Dawn phase. Okay, you refresh by untapping everything and unattaching Dawn and going back to your cost area, but you draw first and then you add 2 Dawn. So many people do that vice versa. They do it the opposite way around. It doesn't really matter, I'm not going to lie, but technically speaking, you're supposed to draw a card first and then add your 2 Dawn to your deck. Okay, let's keep going. He says, let me explain how to give a Dawn card, or give a card a Dawn card.
to give a card a Dawn card. You can give active Dawn cards to your leader or character cards during the main phase.
There you go.
For every Dawn card you give a card, it will gain 1,000 power during your turn.
Again, it'll give you 1,000 power during your turn only. So it will stay attached to the character until your refresh phase the next turn. But you will gain 1,000 power during that turn, but not on your opponent's turn. Okay? So this guy's about to go from 4,000 to 5,000 when he attacks here, but once he passes his turn at the end of his turn, this character will go back to 4,000, even though the Dawn card is still attached. That's something to understand, something to know.
By the way,
Okay.
some characters have effects that trigger when a Dawn card is attached to them.
Yeah, so that is one of the more quote-unquote advanced things in this game, or one of the more technical things, is that Dawn times 1. That means attach 1 Dawn to them. Dawn times 1, right? And then there is a Dawn minus 1, which means you actually return a Dawn card from your cost area, or actually any Dawn card. It just has to be a Dawn that is in play, has to be returned to your Dawn deck. Like not to the cost area, but to the Dawn deck. It can be it depends on the card text, but it can be tapped or not, or rested or active. And so that's for Dawn minus 1. And then there's like a circle and then a number in the middle. That means you have to pay that much Dawn. So if it's like, if this instead of Dawn times 1, if it said Dawn and then 1 circle, you'd have to, well, I probably wouldn't say Dawn and then 1 circle. It would just have 1 circle. That means to pay 1 Dawn. Okay, so we'll see if they go over that in this example. Sorry if that was confusing.
Oh, really? How cool.
So again, in this example, Dawn times 1 just means to attach 1 Dawn to Zoro. Okay, and remember what Dawn does. It gives him plus 1,000 power, right? This character gains plus 1,000 power again from the effect. And notice this, that is not during your turn. That is active during your turn and your opponent's turn, because it says this character gains plus 1,000 power.
You might think it's less cool in a second. Now, my sheep's head power is 5,000, so it looks like I can do some damage to your Luffy. I'm going to use my sheep's head to attack your leader, Luffy.
Luffy's in trouble. Time to activate Chopper's Blopper effect.
Yeah, blocker is an ability that allows a card to take the place of a leader or character being attacked.
Yep, so to block, you do have to turn your character sideways to do the blocking, okay? That is something some people don't know about or forget about, but that is a part of it. And it's an important part, actually, because the point is, if your blocker is tapped, like say your blocker is rested like this, like how it looks right here, that's called rested, and then Robin is active. If you were to attack with a bigger blocker, say, you know, for like 5,000, if you had a bigger blocker, well, now you can't block with them. You can only block if your blocker is active, because resting is a part of blocking.
That means I'm battling Chopper instead of Luffy.
Yeah, so now, okay, he wanted to attack his leader for 5,000, but he got stuck with hitting this blocker because the blocker said, no, you have to attack me now.
Sheep's Head has 5,000 power and Chopper has 1,000 power. I've lost.
In a battle between two characters, the losing character gets trashed.
My Chopper.
Yep, go to the trash when you go down. That's the same name as graveyard or discard. You go to the trash.
Yeah, I will give 2 Dawn cards to my leader Kaido and attack Luffy.
Ah, poor Luffy. He's taken 1 damage. Time to take 1 life card. Huh?
Okay, so she has drawn a card with a trigger on it. Okay, you see this card is a 2 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter. And I'm just going to read down the whole thing. He has Dawn ×2. When attacking, your opponent cannot activate a blocker character that has 5,000 or more power during this turn. Okay, but Trigger plays this card. Seems good. Okay, so easy way to get a card for free. You don't have to pay the cost. The only cost, I'm trying to think, is if it would say in Trigger if you had to do something. Like some cards will be like play this card and discard a card as the trigger. So if you want to play the card, you do have to do the extra part. But this card just says play it.
This Usopp card has trigger written on it.
Wait, you got an Usopp card? When you take damage, if the card has a trigger effect, you can use the effect without paying any cost.
On Usopp's card, next to trigger, it says play this card. That means I get to play this card without paying any cost, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of different trigger
Yep.
effects. There's nothing else I can do this turn.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different effects you can get, not just play this card. There's all kinds of different stuff.
So I will end my turn here.
My turn.
All right, here we go. That's pretty much the game, guys. You kind of know how to play it now.
I'll use my Robin to attack your rested sheep's head.
Dawn cards only...
So just like this guy said, Dawn cards only increased your power during your turn. So Robin's attacking this Sheep's Head for 4,000. So if this player, Tom, wanted to defend Sheep's Head, he would have to spend 2,000 encounters to get him to 6,000 to survive. Notice that Robin can attack Sheep's Head because he's rested. Okay?
Increase your power during your own turn, so...
That's 5,000 versus 4,000. My Robin wins.
Hold up. I'm gonna use my character card's counter. When one of your cards is attacked...
Okay, so he decided he would counter out of this.
Use a counter effect. Counters are super easy to use. All you've got to do is move the card with a counter from your hand to the trash.
You can only counter on defense. I just want to mention that real quick. Like, so Robin attacks Sheep's Head, right? Well, now, oh, you're attacking me? Well, then I can defend with a counter. If they attack one of your characters on the board, or if they attack your leader, you can use a counter. Some events are counters as well.
I will trash my OP so I can increase Sheep's Head power by 2,000.
And that will only last for that one attack. So now if Usopp attacked him for 4,000 again, he would be back down to 4,000. He'd have to do another counter to get out of that. Right. So those count, unless otherwise said on the card, unless otherwise stated, a counter only lasts for the one attack, that one little fight. So the rest of the characters attacking, it resets.
Hey, you defended yourself against my Robin's attack. Well, I'm gonna use my leader Luffy to attack your Kaido.
Not so fast. I will use my event card's counter effect next. I will
Okay.
pay a cost of 1 and play my counter card.
So Blast Breath. So here's that Dawn -1 I was telling you guys about earlier. So Dawn ×1, Dawn -1. There's differences. Dawn -1 says you may return the specified number of Dawn cards from your field to your Dawn deck. And that is part of the cost, okay? And then your leader or one of your characters gains plus 4,000 power during this battle. It's during that battle, that specific one, okay?
Blast breath from my hand. Then I will return 1.
I do, sorry, I got to interrupt him. I do love the simplicity of One Piece. And as the cards get better and there become more and more interactions possible, that's where the complexity and the outplays come in. I think this game is so well made, guys. I really do.
Dawn card from my field to my Dawn deck and increase Kaido's power by 4,000.
Wow. So so he's not gonna be able to break through that 9,000 right now, right? But here's the thing I want to mention. He returned a Dawn card from his cost area. He could have even returned a Dawn card from like his Sheep's Head or his Kaido, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong on that, someone correct me. But I'm 99% sure that's accurate.
Wait, you defended against my attack again. In that case, I'll pay a cost of 5 and play my character card Luffy.
Oh no, that Luffy has Rush, so I can attack on the turn it's played.
Yep. So just like we were saying, this card can attack on the turn in which it is played. So it gets to avoid what Magic calls summoning sickness. It can just go straight into combat, right?
Really? Perfect. I'll use my Luffy to attack.
Okay.
Woo, that was so much fun!
Right?
I want to play a lot more and get way stronger. And I want to teach everyone how to play the One Piece card game.
Me too. Yeah, I want to teach everybody how to play as well. This was a decent video. It was a little childish, I will say that. So that's basically it for the video. Let me let it play out real quick.
Let's all enjoy the One Piece card game together.
Together, all right, good deal. This was not as good of a tutorial, in my opinion, as the Flesh and Blood and Grand Archive ones, but this was still, you know, it was still fine. I'm trying to think if they missed anything. I do like the combat system in this game. Let me go to that. The combat system in One Piece is very, very, what's the word? It just slipped my mind. Intuitive. It's a very intuitive combat system. There is no offense and defense. It's just I'm a 5,000 power leader, right? Or I have a 1,000 power blocker or a 4,000 power guy. There's no offense and defense. It's just I'm coming at you for this much on attack. So if you can only defend with as much power as I'm attacking you with, well, I'm just going to run you over because you didn't beat my attack, right? Now, one thing I want to mention real quick is with this Zoro, just to clear up any confusion. So because this doesn't say on your turn, right? Let me hang on a second. Let me hit play. Okay, boom. So Dawn times 1. This is a 3-cost 5,000 character that has Dawn times 1. This character gains plus 1,000 power. Okay, so on your turn, with 1 Dawn attached, he will be a 7,000, correct? So you see what I'm saying, right? He has 5,000 base power. He'll gain 1,000 from having a Dawn attached. And for having a Dawn attached, you gain 1,000 because that's what a Dawn actually does. The Dawn times 1, right? So he'll be a 7,000, right? That's a big boy, right? That's a big boy swinging. But on your opponent's turn, he still gets plus 1,000 power for having a Dawn attached. This sounds a little confusing. It's not for the Dawn that's attached to it. He's not getting 1,000 from that. He's getting 1,000 from this ability because this ability does not specify that it's only on your turn. Like I said, this is another one where I'm like 99%. I'm right on. I'm 99% sure I'm right on that. If I'm wrong in the comments, someone tell me below. But he'll be a 6,000 on your opponent's turn for having a Dawn attached, and he'll be 7,000 swinging, which for 3 costs, that's very, very good. Okay, so anyway, I do want to mention that, yeah, there are some technical things in the game like that, but overall the game is very, very straightforward and very easy to understand. You know, here's like the attack phase we were just looking at. The counter system in this game is excellent. It allows you to defend things. You know, it allows for interaction in your opponent's turn. That's one thing a lot of players don't like about certain card games. That don't have any interaction with the player, where it's just I'm playing solitaire and now it's your turn to play solitaire, and now it's my turn to play solitaire and now it's your turn. No, in One Piece there's a lot going on. You've got these 2K counters, you have events, like remember what the guy showed, let me fast forward. So this guy's got Blast Breath in his deck, you know, 1 cost, return 1 Dawn to your Dawn deck, and now your leader or one of your characters is plus 4,000 during this battle. You know, there's stuff like that that allows you to interact. Now it's true that the game doesn't have tons of interactions. I wouldn't say that One Piece has a ton of interactions, and a lot of winning in this game has to do with the way you set yourself up to win. But overall, I mean, it does have interactions, and they're pretty interesting. And you also have triggers, right? There's only a few ways to interrupt your opponent's game. With characters that have blocker, losing life and getting trigger effects from your life, and then counters from in your hand. And there might be a few other ways, like with certain abilities that have like on your opponent's turn, or you know, on your opponent's attack or when blocking, things like that. There are certain things that do allow for interaction on your opponent's turn. Or like, for example, I know another decent example just off the top of my head. I'm sorry if this confuses some people. There's a card called Khalifa in OP03, and it has on play. So when you play the card, you draw 2 cards, you discard 2 cards. So it's like you cycle through 2 cards, and you give one of your opponent's characters -2 to their cost. Right. So that would actually happen, right? I'm gonna pull this over so y'all can kind of see what I'm saying real quick, just to give an example. So Khalifa, there's a way to get her on your opponent's turn, and it's not exactly. Let me type in CP. It's not going to happen very often, I'm sure, because a lot of times people go for like other cards like Fukuro and that kind of situation. But this is the situation. If you have a Khalifa in your discard pile, which is this card right here, and here's like an alternate art for her. She's a 2,000 counter, so getting her in your discard is not very hard to do, and she's a 4-cost 4,000 power character. Well, she has 2,000 counter on her. So say you use her counter earlier in the game, right? Okay, very nice. Now she's in your discard pile. Well, there's a card. Now this is a special effect, right? That she has. This is an on-play effect. Well, Bluno has a. Here's another one of those Dawn ×1 effects we're just looking at with Zoro. Notice, Dawn ×1, this character gains blocker. So if you don't have 1 Dawn on him, he doesn't have blocker. Well, you don't need blocker on your turn. You need it on your opponent's turn, right? You can't block on offense. You can only block on defense. So putting 1 Dawn on him, yeah, it doesn't give him plus 1,000 power on your opponent's turn, but on your turn, but on your opponent's turn, he does get blocker, and it does give him 1,000 on your turn if you decided to attack or something. Blah blah blah. But look what this card has. Here's another ability called on KO, and there's a bunch of different like timing abilities. Like, see, this one's on KO. This one's during your main. There's a few things you'll have to learn, but this one is on KO, right? Play up to 1 character card with the cost of 4 or less with CP in its types from your trash and rest it. So notice what that does. That happens on your opponent's turn. Okay? And that is going to help you with other effects we're about to look at. So let's just say, for this example, you block a character with Blue Note that KOs, knocks out your Blue Note. And then you get back your Khalifa from your trash, right? Which she will come into play. She will be rested, just like the card said. The card Blue Note says rest the card as it comes into play. Normally it would not, but per his effect, it would rest the card. Well, this card says on play that you draw 2 and trash 2 cards, which is a cycle effect, and then you reduce the cost of up to one of your opponent's characters by 2 for the turn. That's something you should not overlook, because that does have some relevance, because there are cards that you can trigger off of your life, like this 6 King Pistol, which is a CP card. If you take another point of life that turn from your opponent attacking you, and you reduce the cost of one of their characters with Khalifa down to 1 or less, look what this trigger does. Draw 1 card, then K up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 1 or less. You see how those interactions are possible. I know that might have been confusing, and I do apologize. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. The game is very simple, but what I'm trying to show is there is complexity in the game. There's enough complexity in the game that can allow you to outplay your opponent. Right? Yes, it's a card game. Luck will always have some type of bearing, in that. Luck can always have some type of bearing in a game. But you guys get the point. The better you get and the more complex the game gets, the better you know the cards, the decks, and the meta. You can really have some really big plays. So okay, that's it for the tutorial. This is a very, very fun game. It has a lot of stuff to do. It has a lot of interactions. I think most people will agree that OP01 through OP03 was a little bit rough. And at the time you're recording this is OP03 in the West. In the East and over in Japan, they have OP04 already. So we're kind of in we're playing in their shadow, so to speak. Which I guess you could say that's one downside of One Piece compared to games like Magic the Gathering. That is a global launch. In One Piece TCG, we are always about 3.5 months or maybe 5 months. I don't remember the exact number. We're about 3 to 5 months behind the East. due to translational catch up things. I don't know. They have excuses for it. I don't know all the excuses. But the point is, we are behind the scene over in the East, over here in the West. So that is one downside, is we get to see all these cool new decks being played, and we don't get to play them. But that has its perks too, right? So we get to see what is established in the meta beforehand, and maybe even try to bust the meta by making a deck that counters that preemptively, right? That's the whole point of meta, right? But anyway, I think you guys get the point. I don't want to ramble on too much about it. This was a decent tutorial video. It's better than I thought it'd be after seeing the intro and these like little kitty characters, because the one thing I think they did was they made it they kind of marketed it to kids. Well, I don't know how else to say this, but I don't know any kids who play this game. I only know like grown men, like adults who play this game. I don't know if that sounds sad or what, but that's just kind of how cards are. Trading card games are really, because of the level of complexity and nuance and all the technicality of wording and rulings and stuff. You know, most card games are going to be for people who are like around 18 and up, like 20 and up, right? 21 and 25 and up, so on and so forth. Not to say there's no kids that play. I know there are kids that play, but I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. Oh, well, you know, whatever the case is, long story short, I thought this was a good tutorial. If you guys have any questions, please don't be afraid to post them. Like in the other videos that I made, like I said in the beginning, I made a Grand Archive video and a Flesh and Blood one. I probably won't be great at answering the questions to those games. Decent, but not great. But in this game, I do know the rulebook. I have read the entire rulebook of One Piece. I'm very serious about the game. It's what most of my content is on. I can answer any question that you send my way on One Piece, and if I can't answer it, I'll look it up or tell you. You know, try to help look it up if it's a really technical question. But yeah, like unlike Lorcana, unlike Flesh and Blood, and unlike Grand Archive, I actually really know how to play One Piece. So any questions you guys might have, by all means, don't be afraid to leave me comments. And if you don't want my say so on it, you can always look up the Discord. There's Discords you can look up rulings on, and there's also the actual One Piece website where they have a Q&A, and it's very well done. They answer a lot of preemptive questions that we have that we might have. So all right, guys, that's about it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you don't mind, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe if you don't mind. And at the same time, again, just never be afraid to leave comments in the section below. So, all right, guys, appreciate it. Until next time, peace.